Welcome to the Ask Valor Masterminds Podcast, brought to you by CR Gutters. I'm Galen.
I'm Joe.
And we're coming to you from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma, Washington. Thanks for watching, guys. All right. Welcome to the Ask Valor Masterminds Podcast, brought to you by CR Gutters and our newest sponsor, A Advanced Septic Services. Coming at you from the BD Local Studios here in Tacoma, Washington. I'm Galen. He's Joe. And we're your hosts for our podcast. So, Joe, can you tell our listeners and viewers how the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast came to be?
Sure. So we created a Ask Valor Masterminds Facebook page, or group, I should say, off of our Facebook page. Wanted to get businesses together to talk to one another, to just share some tips and some secrets about business and about marketing. And so we decided that we should just create a podcast around that. Bring different guests on, interview them, ask them some questions, get their knowledge, and then they can share what they've learned as being a business to other businesses that are watching.
Right. So our first couple episodes of our podcast focused on National Women's Small Business Month. So we had a lot of our women entrepreneurs kind of sharing their stories. We have one here today also, which we'll introduce shortly. But this, for the November podcast that we have, it's really a celebration of National Veteran Small Business Week and then carrying that over to a full month. So our last podcast, we had a couple veterans on our podcast. What was one or two key takeaways you had from when we had that podcast?
All right. So the first guest we had on, his name was Adam Goit. He's a landscape contractor out in Kitsap County. And one of the things that he mentioned was make sure you have your team. Don't try to do it all yourself. So make sure you have a bookkeeper and an accountant and someone who does a great job managing your website, and then make sure you have a team of people that help with your marketing. Specifically for him, he said the best thing that has helped him is SEO for his website. The second guest was Mick Credier, which is one of the founders of Valor Marketing. And there's kind of two things that stand out. One is he just said to be upfront and honest with people. And this is going to shock some people, but the customer is not always right. So sometimes you just have to be honest with your clients or your customers and let them know in a respectful way that, they're not right all the time.
And we figured out as a company when Joe and I speak to clients, is we like to really say what we do well. We're not the kind of internet marketing agency that'll try to do everything and say we do it all. We know we do a couple of things really well and really focus on it, and that upfront approach, right?
Correct, yeah.
So we're real proud of that, almost that education piece. We like to say 80% of what we do is more on the education side. So really, we're thankful for that.
Which leads great into what we're doing with the podcast of just educating consumers and the community about different things related to business.
Right. So this part of the podcast is our CR Gutters, Advanced Septic Services, Did You Know segment. So before we introduce Stephanie, did some research. I like doing research and kind of things. So our Did You Know, Stephanie, not only being an entrepreneur, also works with the Association of the United States Army. And for the first graphic that we have there should be a picture of the Lewis and Clark expedition. So just a little quick bit about the Association of the U.S. Army. It's a nonprofit educational and professional development association serving America's Army and supporters of a strong national defense. AUSA provides a voice for the Army, supports the soldier, and honors those who have served in order to advance the security of the nation. So you are the Captain Meriwether Lewis chapter.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, I'm a volunteer. I'm the VP of the Director of Young Professionals. They just changed that.
Okay. So I looked it up because I remember I went to high school in Washington State, and we took Washington State history, and I remember Lewis and Clark and everything. Right. So just a couple, did you know Captain Meriwether Lewis? He was an American explorer, soldier, politician, and public administrator, best known for his role in the Lewis and Clark expedition, also known as the Corps of Discovery with William Clark. Their mission was to explore the territory of the Louisiana Purchase, establish trade with and sovereignty over the natives near the Missouri River, and claim the Pacific Northwest and Oregon County for the United States before European nations. There's your historical lesson
I
for
learned
the
something out of that.
right.
Me neither.
So, did you know that with our next graphic, that on January 18th, 1803, United States President Thomas Jefferson sent a secret message to Congress asking for $2,500 to send an officer and a dozen soldiers to explore the Missouri River, make diplomatic contact with Indians, expand the American fur trade, and locate the Northwest Passage, which is kind of near the Pacific Ocean. So I just did some numbers. What is $2,500? Doesn't sound much. There's a little inflation calculator. In today's money, it'd be like roughly over $40,000. So pretty cheap
That is cheap.
to head that far out, right? Our next graphic that we have, I think it was so President Jefferson, who had already sponsored several attempts to explore the West. Captain Meriwether Lewis was actually his personal secretary, which I did not know, to lead the expedition. So I know the connection was so deep.
I learned a lot right there.
Me too.
Yeah, well, there you go. Hence the did you know. So, well, Joe, I'll have you introduce Stephanie formally and have you take it away. So,
All right, so we're going to welcome Stephanie. She is the owner of Prosper Construction. I met her really through a networking group, and knowing that she's a woman-owned business and a veteran-owned business, I thought it'd be great to bring her on to give another perspective from. I know that she served in the United States Army, and so I guess we'll just jump right into it.
Okay.
awesome.
So, what did you learn in the Army that has helped you in your business today?
So you sent me that question. I was like, oh, there's so many things. But in the Army, as you know, because I know you were in the Army as well, your core values are like shoved down your throat constantly. And the biggest key in my company is integrity, especially in construction. That's why I am construction, because there's a lot of companies out there that don't have it. And construction, remodeling your home or doing a project is extremely expensive. And I've heard so many horror stories of people being taken advantage of. So my company is founded off of integrity, which is a huge value in the Army, and teamwork.
Nice.
So you're talking about that landscaper, it's the same thing. You can't do it all on your own. It's so hard. You got to build an amazing team around you to make it all happen, all the magic happen, I say all the time.
Nice. So I'm looking at your logo. Can you
Yes.
explain your logo to us?
So it's red, white, and blue, of course, to support the military. And we took the star out of the flag and made a little house out of it,
Nice.
which it represents obviously residential, but now that I'm moving into commercial, it still kind of stands more for residential. So I'm like, maybe I need to alter that, but it still works. I think it's cute and very patriotic. So
Yes, I agree. So what are some lessons learned as an early entrepreneur?
Ooh, there's a lot of those too. I've made a lot of mistakes, but that's how you learn and grow. Some of the key ones that stand out, they always tell you, you know who you get into business with. Like now I'm 100% sole owner, but I went into a partnership before this business. And big lesson learned, I didn't really know who I was going into business with. And I did paperwork. I got an attorney. They say that's big too. But I didn't follow it all the way through and have the proper documentation. And I really got to learn who this person was in business. So hence no longer in that business. I left and I said, I'm doing this 100% on my own. So, lesson learned, definitely know who you're getting into business with and make sure you can be in business with them, because it's like a marriage, it is just like a marriage. And then another big one is employees are a really hard struggle in business. Just learning how to deal with them. And so I learned some of that in the Army, being a sergeant. But you can't talk to or deal with employees the way, in the civilian world like you can in the military. So it's definitely a little more challenging. You have to be very sensitive to all needs.
So what's the best piece of advice that you've been given in business that you could share with our viewers and listeners right now?
I definitely like to ask a lot of people things, because I like to learn, and I'm always learning and growing. And construction is such a broad industry. What really does it for me is I I'm a huge affirmation person.
Mm-hmm.
I surround myself with them on Facebook pages and groups and Pinterest, and I have them all over my desk, all over my wall. When you walk into our office, a whole wall, literally the whole wall is filled with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a person, it's just that positive environment that I have to create and force because it's hard every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's cool because that way it's always positive in the office.
it is. I try to create a very positive environment because it's like all businesses, it's challenging. Construction is very challenging. You all day you have a plan and it changes like every 5 minutes, and it's hard to stay positive and keep everybody like on beat. Like we can do this. It's all right. We'll shift, adjust, change. So yeah, I think it helps a lot. And when people walk in the office, I see customers or just people coming in to meet. It lights them up.
Mhm.
I can see it give them a sense of just positivity, which is awesome. We all need that every day.
So real quick with your company, one of our first episodes, we had a couple of our clients on women-owned businesses, and they were typically in a non-female type industry.
Right.
Is that similar in your industry also? Is
Oh,
it
yes.
male-dominated?
Yes, it is.
ownership-wise?
Absolutely. And I was really worried going into this that was going to hinder me in business in terms of getting customers and jobs because I'm not a man walking in. And are they going to, take me serious? Are they going to, believe that I know what I'm talking about? And I almost think it's the opposite. They immediately more trust me, and I listen to what they're saying. And we do a lot of design. So I feel like being a woman that helps and working with them and figuring out, nailing down exactly what you want, because a lot of times people don't know. So we'll sit and go
Right.
through Pinterest boards and figure it out together. So it actually has helped me, but like on the commercial side of things, it's a little more challenging. You definitely have to be a little more aggressive
Mm-hmm.
and just not take no crap, pretty much.
Right.
I kind of have to be a little harder. I'm learning how to be harder because I'm a little too soft, but I'm learning in my own way to be a little harder.
So your experience in the Army has definitely helped you in that regard.
Yes,
then.
it has. Yes, it has. Because in the Army, there's not a lot of women either. So, and I've always kind of been, I've been a tomboy, always growing up. All my friends were boys. And
Right.
so, yeah, it works. I think that's another reason why I like construction because
Right.
it's not, typically what you see a woman in. So I like that. I like that challenge.
So what got you started into, starting a construction company out of the Army?
Right, because in the Army, I was IT. I knew nothing about construction or had anything to do with it. I became a contractor for the Army, and I was able to save some money. And the market had tanked, and I'm trying to listen to people put away your money in IRAs and Roths, and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to put some money in real estate. And that's where it all started. My love for real estate right there is where it all began. I invested in some properties, and I love challenges, so I'm like, oh, they need fixed up. So me and my other half at the time decided to start doing that on our own and figuring it out, and made a lot of mistakes, watched a lot of YouTube videos, talked to some different people, learning different trades, and we figured it out. And I love it. I get excited about dumps. Like nothing makes me excited than an old house
Yes.
that has good bones, and I get so excited, and I love bringing it back to life. I love just architecture, and so it's a passion. I'm like, this is what I need to do in life. It makes me happy. So
Nice. And that's
Yeah.
a key thing then. You're doing something that you really love doing
I
right
do.
now.
yes, I like to do it more for myself than others, but I like to help people also in challenging situations. So
So again,
Circle.
transitioning to the help piece, the Association of the U.S. Army. So we have an upcoming event on December 11th, and Stephanie
Yes.
with AUSA is gladly going to be one of our co-sponsors. Tell us how you got involved with AUSA.
So I actually did not know about AUSA in the Army, which is weird because it's the association for the Army. I knew nothing about it, and we're working on changing that because everybody in the Army should know about that. As a whole, AUSA is the voice for the Army. They pay, like, you pay a membership to be, in AUSA, and that money goes to lobbyists in DC, and they're lobbying for your TRICARE benefits and your raises, and it does all that. But here locally, there's like a chapter at every base. So ours here in JBLM is Captain Meriwether Lewis, and we support the soldiers locally. So when I got out and I was a contractor, I worked for a company that does DoD contracting, and I joined through them as a corporate member, and that was 10 years ago, and I've never looked back. I obviously left that company, started my own, but I love it. I love the people I've met. I love helping. We do so much here locally, a lot.
Share some of the things you guys do.
So we have the Suits for Service Members program, which I'm heavily involved in with young professionals. So it's the whole process is amazing. We give complimentary suits for the men and women that are transitioning out to help make that transition easier. I meet with them sometimes too and give them guidance because it's scary getting out. It's okay. You could do it. Just that motivation. We have our Operation Ham Grenade Turkey Drop, which is happening right now. We give 1,000. It fluctuates every year, but like this year is 1,000 turkeys on Thanksgiving, 1,000 hams for Christmas that we give to the junior enlisted soldiers as a gratitude gift. We raise, baskets for the rest of the meals. We do workshops all the time.
What kind of workshops?
Well, like we're partnering with you guys is one which is cool. We haven't done before, which I think is amazing for the veteran business owners out there. I actually know quite a bit. There's a lot of them out there, and I think it's cool that we can provide something helpful and free.
Let me ask something about that. So, you yourself being a veteran entrepreneur, what's your feel on veterans that are going out, that are going into business for themselves? Because our last podcast, we kind of focused on the huge impact of, I don't know, over 2 million businesses that are veteran-owned in the United States. What's your feel of what veterans are doing today? Are they looking to start their own or going into like corporate America?
I think most go into corporate America. I think it's easier, especially I feel like typically you see that with the ones that are, retiring. They're, I don't know, have this mindset they're going to a big corporate job and they want the benefits. I feel like typically you see like soldiers, E6s and below that are typically, going their own business or being an entrepreneur. Definitely more go toward a corporate job. And I don't know what it's called now. When I got out of the Army, it was ACAP. They call it something else now. They push that more, but they do have a whole little segment that you go to about, doing a franchise or something like that. But it's pushed more. It's scary. It's already scary getting out and then like, hey, I'm going to get out and then go into an entrepreneur and I have no income.
Right.
The unknown. So I think it's a safer bet and a lot of people do that. So
From what I've seen, a lot of vets will go to corporate America or work for a different company, and then as they see how that business runs their business, then they decide to go out on their own.
Yep, I would agree
usually
with that.
they gain the experience and then they do it on their own.
And I don't almost argue too, veterans or anybody alike would follow that path to going into business for themselves. So Joe, can you give our viewers and listeners a little more details on our upcoming workshop that Stephanie's sponsoring?
Sure. So it is called, Reach More Customers Online with Google. We're going to be talking, not us, but Carissa St. Laurent. She's one of the Google's national trainers. Whenever we have these events, we try to get her because she's just an awesome woman and she's super engaging, right?
Yes.
Engagement with the audience. And she's going to be talking about Google Maps, how it's important, how to maximize your Google My Maps listing. She's going to talk about Google Trends, which most people I talk to have never heard of. And then she's going to talk about the basics of what SEO is and why it's important. And then also PPC or pay-per-click advertising with Google Ads and how you can use that to maximize getting lead generation.
Right. And we as a company really love the education piece. So we have another graphic, a teaser graphic of if you attend this workshop, why would you want to? One big thing that we're a big fan of is information. You got to know how people are finding you and everything. And this first slide that we have here is a slide from the workshop. So it's about insights. So how do people search for you? If you claim your Google business page, you could actually see what people are typing in to find you. How do they interact with you? Like call to action. If you're a brick and mortar place, sometimes a direction, GPS to find you. Phone calls or visits to a website. Where do customers come from? And what days do you have the most activity? So if you're closed Monday, you should put your hours correctly and kind of know that. So
I'm going to ask you, have you claimed your Google My Business listing?
Yes. I just recently did that not that long ago. I was telling you, I hired somebody part-time and she had to do it, as a small business. It's always up here to do, but it ends up down here at the end of the day, every day. So I'm actually really excited about this class. I'm actually going to have my Beth, like my gal, there as well, to because we definitely don't know enough about it.
One thing you may not know is the reason why I find it important is because you can use your Google My Business just like you would as any other social media outlet, social media channel. So you can upload pictures as you're doing work. So as you upload those pictures, then you get insights or the analytics from Google on a weekly basis that said, this picture you uploaded last
Oh
week
wow!
had this many views. Versus
Right.
so you can upload as many videos as you want. You can upload videos to it. You can add all of the services that you offer, all of the products that you offer. So
Right.
essentially, you're taking your, let's say, Facebook business page and throwing that into Google.
And
Right,
it's
which is
free.
and it's free.
Free
That's
99.
the
Free.
best right
Yes,
there.
free
Free.
99.
Can't get better than free.
No. So we'll go into this insight bit a little bit more as we kind of tease why you'd want to attend our free workshop on December 11th at the DuPont City Hall at 3 o'clock. Our next graphic, teaser 2. So this is a client of mine, Long Pest Control. They're a pest control company in Tacoma. And the insights are for the keywords, so it's hard to see. You guys may have to zoom in. I apologize for that. But it shows like over the past quarter, over 500 people typed in the word pest control to find them, and they weren't looking for this client in particular. The term pest control near me, the term near me searches are up so much, how many 100% year over year because of mobile search, people talking and not typing. We're all guilty. I'm guilty of that. Searching with
I
my
do a little bit. I do it.
right pest control Tacoma. So I help my client using these insights, and we really, when you talk about trends, which we'll cover also, it's important to know how people are finding you to make sure the message on your website is what you do. Because oftentimes, Joe, you could attest to this. We'll meet with clients, and whatever they do on their website, they'll say, "Oh, I also do this," but it's not listed on their site. So people, if it's not listed on your site, people know you never did that, and they often, well, how come they don't ask me for this? Well, if you don't put your information out there, they'll never know.
Or even better, looking at, for example, a chiropractors, they're managing their own Google AdWords campaign. We dive in, we see what they're doing, and like the number one searched key term for them is like yoga, but they have nothing to do with yoga and chiropractic care. So just going over, understanding your insights, pulling up your Google Analytics, see how the two compare versus what it is that you're trying to market for your business.
Right.
So I do want to ask you, what kind of marketing, since this is a marketing show,
Right.
what kind of marketing have you done, and what kind of marketing has worked the best?
I have been really fortunate. I haven't had to do too much. I joined a networking group in at that point. I mean, it's been a couple years now, and it's mostly word of mouth. A lot of mine is word of mouth. I mean, I do Facebook, but I don't really do a lot of ads on there. I've been really, really fortunate. And I think that's a lot too because of the economy. I mean, which could change at any time. And I know that I'm going to have to go a different route when it comes to marketing for that. But the industry is good right now. And I feel like there's not enough people in construction. There's a huge shortage in demand, supply and demand kind of thing. So I've been really fortunate. I always want to knock on wood when I say that because it's going to be sad when that shifts. But word of mouth is a lot, and just networking.
Networking is building. What kind of relationships do you build?
I definitely network, do one-to-ones, meet people, create those personal relationships, and then within that group it spreads. I'll do a job for this person, and they tell so and so and so and so. So I've been really fortunate, and I don't just do residential. I'm very broad in what I do. I do commercial. I do handyman services for property management. I do insurance work. So that fills a lot of the gaps, and being diversified, I think, helps a lot too.
So then building relationships in services like looking for property management companies or
Right.
looking for insurance companies to work
Yep.
with.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our next slide that we have. So the cool thing about insights is you could see if people know you or they don't know you. So in this graphic here, the shaded out percentage, the lighter shade on the screen now, shows how many times people search that knew them. So this company's name is Long Pest Control. They use Long Pest Control in their search. For a quarter, 70% of the search, over 9,000 searches, are people who search pest control that did not know who they were. So it shows an opportunity of how many people are searching in the marketplace. So almost we'll touch a little bit with SEO on why that's important. Our next image is probably one of my most favorite ones because it shows you, and again, this is free information, the call to actions. So Joe touched on it really well. How many times do they visit your website? So over the past quarter, they got 400 visits from their Google business page. They had, and this is a pest control company, so for some reason they had 16 people request directions. I don't know why you'd want to go there. Maybe an employee got lost. And then a few hundred calls, a couple hundred calls call them from their Google business listing. So not from their website. So
I'm going to talk about fear loss real quick. So imagine if this customer never went to Google, never claimed their Google My Business listing, and they would have missed out on, how many phone calls was it? 400?
over 400.
Oh, yeah, 399 phone calls that they would have missed this last quarter had they not claimed their Google My Business listing. So that business would have not went to them. It would have went to one of the other competitors.
Correct. So great point. The next image, and again, this is just a teaser. The good thing is Carissa, our trainer, she's readily available to reach out to her. She makes herself really accessible, and she's such a pro. Shows when people talk about phone calls, like when do you get your phone calls? So it's important to know when you get your phone calls. So this client here doesn't get a lot of phone calls on the weekend, but during the weekdays. So we may tailor some of their Google AdWords program to really show up when people are calling them. So maybe not showing up on the weekends. And then the last slide, or the last image, is Joe touched on this too, is just photos. So this business, compared to their competitors, 465% more views than their competitors. So I've just taught them how to put images of what they do, how they do work. You know, for you guys, it'd be
that's huge.
Jobs and everything. You have Pinterest boards and everything. People who don't know you, sometimes it's an image that converts. Because now the future of social media, and I'm guilty of it, if it's just text, I'm going to blow by it.
Yep.
But if it's an image, you have a chance to get me.
Right.
A video, you know, you always see your video views. It's always high in the first 10 seconds. Like, give me a reason to do it. Right. I think pictures are, especially for you, you're so visual. It's key.
Yeah, for us too. It's the reviews. Like I've had several people in the last month come and walk in the door, call, "Hey, I saw you had good reviews," and I'm like, "Oh." So.
And do you reply to all your reviews?
That's a great question to ask Beth.
I would say that you should. One thing I learned was to reply to both a positive review and a negative review, and just thank them for their business up front. Right. After you thank them for their business, if it's a negative review, it's just please reach out to this email so we can see how we could resolve this issue for you.
Well, it's the stat I usually use is 82 or 84% of people trust third-party reviews over personal recommendations. And I say this at the Ignite U tables when I get a chance to speak. It's often the first negative review that a customer or a potential customer will look to see how that business replied to judge you. Because everyone gets good reviews. They'll think, oh, it's friends and family. Got to do 100 reviews, but let me find the first 1-star review and see what that person said.
Yeah.
And then you as a business have a chance to recorrect the narrative, even if it's at fault. They like that businesses are responsive to the community.
I would agree. When I look at products, I look at that, see how they react, how they respond, what their answers were.
Right. Because I'm never going to a 2-star taco spot. I'm like, all right. And then the food ratings, I'll go to like the 5-star reviewed ones with like a couple thousand reviews. Like, all right, I'll eat those beef tacos over there. I'll get the carnitas over there, you know.
Right.
So.
And with that reviews, it's all in your dashboard on Google My Business. So you could click on reviews and you could respond directly on it.
Right. And there's an app for it too, Google My Business. Well, thank you, Stephanie, for joining us for this podcast. We're really excited and appreciative of you co-sponsoring and finding us the venue at the DuPont City Hall. Any last details, Joe, of the event and how to register?
You could go to the Valor Marketing LLC Facebook page, click on events, and register for the event on December 11th. Right now, we're over 60 people registered. We would like to get the room fills, I think, 100 people or so. We would like to pack the room if at all possible, and with your help, I think that we could do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it is Thanksgiving week. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thanks for our veterans who serve as we continue to celebrate National Veteran Small Business Week. Yeah. Any last thoughts, Joe?
No, just just thank you for being on, and thank
Yeah,
you for
absolutely.
supporting with what we're trying to do with businesses.
All right. So thanks, guys, for tuning in and watching or listening to the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by CR Gutters and Advanced Septic Services. We're coming at you from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma. And until next time, I'm Galen.
I'm Joe.
We'll see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.